Hi, this is Bill from BIM 9. Today I'm going to show you how to use paper space and model space to create a drawing that looks like this from our model that looks like that. And so what we would like to have is a 24 by 36 sheet of paper. We would like the model scaled to 1 to 40, and I would like to have at least 2 views per sheet. The first view is going to be this part of the roadway. The second view will be this part of the roadway. And we will also need to rotate those views so that they best utilize the paper. So let's begin. I'll click on Layout 2, which is a default layout. It is 8.5 by 11, and it's printing out to the Microsoft printer, because that's my default printer at the moment. So I'm going to right click on my layout and pick Page Setup Manager. Inside of here it tells me all the stuff about the page. Layout 2 is selected because I right clicked on it and picked Page Setup Manager, and I'll pick on Modify. Inside of here is the plot dialog box that we know and love. Here I'll change the plotter, and I'm going to change it to the Debevc to PDF. You would probably change it to whatever plotter that you're using. So I changed it to that, and now I'm going to change the paper size to 24 by 36. I'll check to make sure I'm plotting the layout, because that'll give me what I see is what I get when I plot. I'll make sure that the plot scale is 1 to 1, and I'll make sure that my icon here shows me a hatch pattern throughout the whole paper. That shows me that my drawing orientation is correct. So I'll pick OK, and then close. So you can see my paper size changed from letter to 24 by 36. It didn't change the M view because most of the time we wouldn't want it to change the M view. We would want to keep it the same because it may change the orientation of the drawing or the scale. So we'll keep it like that. Step 2 is to insert our border. So we'll use the insert command, and I have my title block selected. I have everything correct the way I want it to be, 0, 0, 1, and a 0 angle. I'll just hit OK, and there's the title block. I would like to have this M view now located up here. To do that, I'll move it. So I'll pick the M view, I'll hit move, I'll tell it where I want to pick it up and where I want to put it down. Now I would like to have the M view a little bit larger to fill out this area of the screen. So I'll click on the M view, and up come the grips. I'll click on my grip here, and I'll stretch it out over to about there. Fantastic. Now I need to make sure that that is 1 to 40 scale, and I need to make sure that it is showing the right part of the model. To do that, I have to go into model space. So if I double click inside of the M view, it puts me into model space. Now whatever I draw, whatever I zoom, whatever I pan, it's panning that M view, or the monitor view, or model view, if you will. If I want to go back to paper, where the M view lives and the title block lives, I simply just move my mouse outside of the M view. I can see it turns into an arrow, and I double click, and now I'm inside of paper. I can tell because my cursor stays the same as I move it across the M view. Also I have my 30-60 triangle, and it says paper down here at the bottom. Again, I wanted to change that monitor, so I'll double click, I'll pan it over, I'll zoom in to about where I want it to be. Great. Well, it's at an angle, and I don't want it at an angle. I don't want to rotate the road because that would change the orientation of the road. So I'm going to rotate the M view to get it the way that I want it to be. The M view lives in paper space, so I've got to double click to get into paper space. Now I can click on the M view, and I'll issue the rotate command. Notice when I zoom in now inside of paper space, it's zooming inside of paper. It's not changing the model. It's not changing the scale or the rotation yet. So I want to rotate it using this center line as my reference angle. I'm still inside of the rotate command. It says specify base point. I'll turn on my object snaps, and I'll pick right there. And I want to use a reference. So I want to reference from the same point along this line anywhere, because we're specifying an angle. And I want that new angle to be 0. So now I've rotated my M view. If I double click the wheel to zoom extents, I can see there's my M view, it's rotated, and the model has been rotated as well, but only the view of the model is rotated. If I go back to model space, the road is still intact. I'll go back to layout 2. Now I want this M view to look correct. I'll click on it, I'll grab the grips, and I'll move them into place. Get that O snap turned off. And I'll move this over here where I want it to be. Great. Escape. Now I need to make sure that scale is right. I'm in paper space. I wanted to change the way the model looks, so I got to double click in model space so I can zoom and pan. So I'll pan it over about like that, about in the center. And I'll change the scale of the viewport. And I do that right down here at the lower right, the viewport scale. And I change it from whatever it is to 1 to 40. And it zooms in. I'll pan over a little bit. That looks good to me. I can see. Now, one of the things, if I zoom in and out using the wheel, so I zoom in once and then zoom out one click, I can see my scale change to something else. Well, I need that to be 1 to 40, so I'll change it back to 1 to 40. That's good. I'll use this little lock here next to the scale, and that locks my viewport. I'm in model space. If I zoom in and out, it zooms inside a paper space for me, so it automatically switches between the two spaces, and that keeps my M view orientated correctly. It's at the right scale, and it's at the right rotation, and it's at the right orientation as well. Now I'm ready to create this M view down here, the lower one. To do that, I have to do it inside of paper, so I'll double click inside of paper space. I'll click this M view because it's scaled right, the orientation is pretty good, rotation is already good. We'll see how it works for the next part of the road. So I'll copy it. I'll copy it from here down to here. I don't want another copy, so I'll hit escape. I want to double click inside of the M view, and I want to pan it over. Well, it's panning the paper. That's because I forgot to unlock it. So I'll unlock it, and now I'll pan the model to where I want it to be. About right there. I can see, whoop, I need a little bit more space up here. I'm at 1 to 40. I'll go ahead and lock it. I'll go into paper because that's where the M view is, put the grips on it, and I'll move it up. You can see I can still edit the M view even though the view is locked. It just won't let me change the scale factor, zoom in and out, or the panning. So it's just making it so that any command that changes the scale or the orientation of the view gets locked, and it does that in paper space and model space for me automatically. The last thing I need to do is I want to put these M views on their own layer and turn that layer off and make that layer non-plottable so that I don't get these boxes here to plot. So I'm going to select the M views. I'll click on layer, and I'll go down to M view, which is a layer I made earlier that's turned off. And of course AutoCAD comes up and says, hey, you've moved some objects to a layer that's off or frozen. That's why they're not showing on the screen anymore. So I'll say close. Thank you for telling me that, Mr. AutoCAD. And now I have my paper set up the way I want it to be. I have my view up here. I've got my view down here. They're 1 to 40. And now I'm ready to plot. So I just right click on the M view, or I'm sorry, right click on the layout and go to plot. And up comes up the plot settings that I set earlier. I'm going to do a preview so you can see the plot. And there it is. No M views in there. I'll go ahead and exit. And there we go. Paper space and model space.